Hello, my name is Nick Goodmanson. In this presentation, I'll be comparing the NVIDIA and TensorFlow developer websites. For a quick introduction to NVIDIA and TensorFlow, NVIDIA is a company that focuses on both hardware and software. Hardware usually around GPUs or graphical processing units, and software focusing on AI and machine learning, often using those GPUs and the resources they provide. And NVIDIA uses applications of AI and ML in other disciplines, such as stats in the case of data science. TensorFlow is a library made for machine learning that has grown in popularity significantly in the last few years, and is used both by beginners and experts alike within this piece of computer science. The purposes of these websites is to provide resources and documentation for developers. These include things like instructions for how to use the various tools they provide, as well as guidelines for what proper use looks like. Examples are given as well. A secondary purpose is for fostering and supporting a development community. This is done largely through forums and pretty much everything. Most of the resources both the company and the library provide being open source. One of the big pieces for the content is the instructions that both websites provide for their resources. For NVIDIA, they provide tutorials and toy projects. As you can see in the top right, that's an example of a tutorial where they've taken a toy issue and built a guide for how to use machine learning to solve it. And the idea is that you would apply that same knowledge to other projects. They provide comprehensive programming guides as seen below for their CUDA and video series for their SDKs or software development kits. TensorFlow instructions follow kind of a similar guidelines to NVIDIA, but do add a couple pieces to them. For example, there are more detailed guides for different experience levels, and those are made very, very overt on the website. As you can see on the bottom, there's an option for learning how to use machine learning to solve a beginner problem, in this case, for learning a first neural network, or if one has come in with some level of experience, an expert issue. So there's a little bit of diversification there, which is very, very nice. TensorFlow also provides video guides for some of its APIs. It's a little bit more limited than NVIDIA and does have organized coursework for their APIs, as seen in the top right. The second big use is, of course, documentation. After all, for a developer to properly and fully be able to use a given piece of software or a given library, they have to know how to use the pieces of the library, and that's what the documentation provides. For NVIDIA, for both NVIDIA and TensorFlow, the documentation is actually pretty nice. It's very comprehensive. You have an idea of what each piece does. They do communicate things in a little bit different way. NVIDIA is a little bit more text heavy. They provide a lot of examples. They do have a lot of graphics demonstrating, particularly on the hardware level, what's occurring. So for CUDA, you have to divvy up the memory. So they do a lot of explanations of kind of how that works, for example. This is a little bit different compared to what TensorFlow does, where they use open space. They've spaced the content out a lot, and they provide a lot more programming examples than NVIDIA. For example, you see on this right, you have a just instantly have a example of just code, and that's kind of what the TensorFlow does very, very well. But both are usable. In terms of ease of navigability and organization, both websites are actually very nice. As you see here, in terms of ease of navigability, both websites have a series of drop-down windows that help people find what they need to look for. The keywords for searching that are really clear here. So if you want to look for documentation, it's instantly label. If you want to learn how to learn on the TensorFlow website, that information is just there. Each has their own search feature as well, so finding content is extremely fast. And within the drop-down menus, either both in NVIDIA and TensorFlow for, say, the deep learning on NVIDIA or the for mobile and edge on TensorFlow, once you click on those, you do get a secondary table of contents within those web pages that allow you to navigate into any kind of more specifics, whether it's getting started with that piece of information or whether you want some documentation. All that is there, and it's really, really easy to find. Organization and how the websites look is also very nice. Both of them have a good use of white space and open space. And things aren't super clustered together, which makes everything very easy to read. This is an example of the NVIDIA website, where it's clear what each section has, and the rest of the website kind of follows a similar pattern. And this is an example for TensorFlow, where you have this simple small box where it's very, very obvious what a user would need to do. So it's very easy to use, it looks nice. And there's not much more to say about that. So kind of in conclusion, NVIDIA does have a greater breadth and more resources. That's a product of it being a bigger company, having more stock and more things. Both websites have similar quality instructions. TensorFlow is a little bit more of a tailored instruction set. It's easier to read the documentation, and then both sites are easily navigable and well organized. Thank you.